There he is. He's going full steam ahead. And now we have Joe Rogan, apparently, reportedly attending church consistently. So that's pretty funny. And it says here in this.
What's going on, you guys? Today we have Joe Rogan getting slammed. Joe Rogan is on his way to becoming a nationalist xenophobe, and the first marker of this is a newfound interest in fundamentalist Christianity. Let's get into it.
Right after you left, Gavin, you were getting on the road. We got a message from Kyle Kalinske, and he was like, holy shit. It's kind of a name drop, but it's relevant. He was like, holy shit, I can't believe Joe Rogan went full Christianity. Didn't you guys have a show about this where you were speculating if that was going to happen? And we were like, yeah, we were speculating because he was really into the mushroom thing back in the day. He wrote that famous article, Santa Claus was a mushroom. A lot of people have written articles about how Christianity might have been started by people who were tripping off of psychedelics, all those kinds of things. So I just thought it was in the air. That, and of course, the just insane amount of money that's being pushed towards the right wing right now to
sorry.
Oh no, you're good. Just insane amount of money that's being pushed towards the right wing to kind of go Christianity. We saw Tucker Carlson do it. He started talking about how he was mauled by a demon in his sleep. And I think that might be the episode where we first started speculating whether or not Joe Rogan would relent and go down this rabbit hole as well. Then you have Russell Brand obviously raking in a ton of cash by going on his Christian pivot. And it seems now Joe Rogan is following suit. Pretty crazy.
Yeah, so we're going to get into this by way of that secular talk video. Can't wait to hear Kyle's comments plus the Vanguard shout out, because you're right, Zach. We have been calling this for a while. We've been talking about how kind of not just Joe Rogan, but I think weirdly the whole sort of cohort of people that got really into the anti-vax stuff, Zach. I think that's who you can really pinpoint as a specific group that's really embracing this new Christian brand. Obviously, Jimmy Dore comes to mind. We've talked about that. We talked about how Jimmy Dore like quit pot, started talking a lot about God, started talking a lot about his dreams and his Jungian self and all this crap, right? Definitely pandering to that more spiritual energy, but directly to Christians. Jimmy's talked a lot about God recently. Then, of course, Russell Brand hit, and he went full Christian. So ridiculously, cartoonishly Christian, in such an unsubtle way that it's honestly hilarious. He's a caricature of a grifter in the religious, industry. But
And before the Vanguard gets into it, I just want to make a distinction that, I think that if you are making a true step into, the spiritual world, if you're taking a step into whether it was a 12-step program that Jimmy Dore was doing or just any type of recovery, wanting to realize that there is something bigger than you, if that's what you want, whether atheists or not, I think that the 12-step groups talk still about a higher power. That's not the issue. The issue is, believing in this idea that, I have to, go to church, and if I don't go to church, or anyone else who doesn't go to church, then they're going to get what they deserve, and that, and then they start getting their rocks off. They start, getting off on this revenge type of idea that personally I don't feel like is tapped into anything spiritual whatsoever.
There he is. He's going full steam ahead, and now we have Joe Rogan, apparently, reportedly attending church consistently. So that's pretty funny. And it says here in this article, Joe Rogan recently voiced skepticism about the Big Bang theory of evolution and is repeatedly attending church on a regular basis. The 57-year-old Rogan, one of the most prominent podcasters in popular media, is attending church consistently. And then they go on here to talk about this idiotic quote where he's talking about the Big Bang. I'll try to see if I can find that. But yeah, Zach, what was your initial reaction to this? Because, it is predictable. We predicted it, but it's still just so stupid and unfortunate.
Yeah, it's crazy because while we did predict it, I think when we were both talking about it, it was a little bit in jest. It was like, now it's going to be like Joe Rogan. Like, we'll see how far Joe Rogan really falls all the way down to the Christian rabbit hole. Like, it was definitely on the table. But I also could have just as easily saw him kind of only flirting with it a little bit, right? Like not going down the I'm regularly attending church. I think it represents a couple of things. I think you're very correct in pinpointing that this is the new chapter for the anti-vax people, because the anti-vax thing is completely dead now. Nobody cares about it. You can't talk about Fauci and get clicks anymore. You can't talk about vax skepticism and get clicks anymore. It's completely over. Nobody cares about COVID. Nobody cares about any of that anymore. So they need to find another way to move and compel people. And I think it's worth noting that historically, the people who were into anti-vax stuff, and Gavin and I have talked about this on the podcast at length, were like the Gwyneth Paltrows, right? It was like the crunchy, liberal, more like, you know.
And this shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. You know, this is the, okay, well, Trump is doing everything that he can and he's making all these big changes. Oh, but, you know, these things, I still feel the same way. I feel like all these, that we still have these issues, you know, that there's still a lot of problems going on in the world. So now I have to believe that Jesus is going to save me. Now, I couldn't possibly just be falling victim to a bad system, to a corrupt system. No, this system needs Christ to keep on running. It's not the fact that these people are lying. It couldn't be that Trump is lying to me. It couldn't be that this system is a farce, that I've been lied, that this American dream has been nothing but just corporate greed the entire time. No, it needs Jesus to run. That is the answer. Oh my goodness, how didn't I see it this entire time?
Williamson types.
The Marianne Williamson types, exactly. And what does Marianne Williamson also get really into? Spirituality. I'm thinking about like the Unitarian Christianity thing. I feel like they're trying to rebrand themselves in a lot of these, like, I'm a skeptic kind of a guy, are actually going more towards the traditional value set now. Like, oh, I'm an alpha male. I like working out. I like hunting. What's the other thing you can sell to those people? Bible, spirituality. So it's almost like the for the husband kind of branding of spirituality now. You know what I mean? So you have like the Goop for a lot of women, but you've got the kind of Joe Rogan Christian, Russell Brand Christian for men. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think you're right. But it's unfortunate because, like, I don't have an issue with spirituality. I don't have an issue with people that are trying to embrace what they view as a higher power or something that they don't quite understand in the universe, something that helps them make sense of it all. I don't have an issue with that at all. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. What I do have an issue with is this sort of bullshit that now Joe Rogan is saying. Let's take a look at this quote, because Zach, obviously, you know, we grew up in Kansas. We heard shit like this constantly ad nauseum throughout our young adult lives. So, you know, he's talking about the Big Bang Theory. And he says, it's funny because people will be incredulous about the resurrection of Jesus Christ, but yet they're convinced that the entire universe was smaller than the head of a pin, and that for no reason that anyone has adequately explained to me, instantaneously became everything. Okay, Rogan said on a May 7th episode. In the conversation, which centered on the origin of the universe, Rogan asked whether the notion of the existence of nothing was logical. Wouldn't it be crazy if there wasn't something at one point in time? He asked, that seems even crazier than there has been something, there couldn't be nothing, then all of a sudden everything. So basically, this is one of the most tired cliches that you hear from Christians, but not just people that actually believe in Christianity. You hear this kind of shit from hacks like Ken Ham.
So there we have it, you guys. And I mean, this has been going on from the very beginning. This has been going on from the jump. You had, you know, people like Darwin, people like Freud that started to, you know, arouse some suspicion in people. So then from there on, it had to get a little bit more complicated, and now it's just more outdrawn. But you're always going to have people that will say, oh, well, this is the way to do it. And this is the right way to do it. This is how to live. This is the only way to live. And if you choose not to live this way, you deserve to die. And whether or not that's what I'm not calling true Christianity that at all. I'm calling fundamentalist Christianity. I'm calling, fascism that way of being. We can see right now that if you don't subscribe to the standard of, oh, you have to hustle harder to make money, oh, you have to do this and that, then you can't even afford healthcare at this point. So it's spawning the whole, I think that this is just an idea, but it's getting more and more overt, this idea of you have to do this or you're going to get the wrath of God unleashed on you. It's turned into totalitarianism, and it's one way or another. We can see that now it has even grown into straight up fundamentalist Christianity. That is becoming the hallmark of America right now. And it really is just so pervasive. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. It's another day in the progressive way.